Man. So I'm gonna say, anyone who's interested in doing things that are original or creative, you actually need part of the greatest strength of doing something original is the kind of patience that you need for it, because one is that there's something called a non-linear response. I was listening to a book by Nassim Nicholas Taleb, and some things have a non-linear response. Like if you were to take like medicine, or like so you take medicine and then you do a double dose of that medicine, and the effects are more than double at that point because it's a non-linear reaction. So when you're doing some things that are creative, you actually have a non-linear reaction, and you have to humble yourself and continue to work when you don't have a direct linear appreciable return or even challenge. So it's kind of like, instead, if you can imagine how difficult it would be to work a fitness machine for 20 minutes, what would be more difficult would be to shadow box for 20 minutes, where you're just throwing your arm out with no resistance. And that's a lot of like content creation. So I just had what I thought was a strong video, and the YouTube apparatus is so finicky on the phone that you can barely tap it and it delete exactly what you just said. So what I was more so going is, it's hard to repeat without the same spirit and energy of what I was talking about. So what I was saying is that so some of in that film Good Will Hunting, he's portrayed as a savant, but he's actually he's showing some of the shortcomings in the assumptions within our society as it was then in the late 90s, and he's showing some of the shortcomings with higher education. And what I was saying in the previous video is that what's appreciated as so this existence is, and it's fashioning and sustaining, is fashioning of opportunity and sustenance and sustaining of itself in that mode of operation of sustaining and inspiring. It's appreciated as feminine from some of the traditions of India, as being a mother that provides what is needed for itself, when and where appropriate, in perfect in outstanding in immaculate economy and efficiency, which is why what I'm referring to can be appreciated as immortal, according to Arthur Avalon, because it wastes not. And so it wastes not time to sustain us, nor means upon sustaining us, because then that would be wasteful, and that would not be beneficial for ourselves, which are part of it and therefore itself. So the different blessings and support that we need are not a moment too soon, nor a moment too late, nor a moment too long. It is exactly as we need, where we need. And I was saying that I watched a film about a documentary of desert rebels in the past, and whether what you feel about their politics is yours to decide. But in that documentary, these rebels came across a storefront in a remote rural area of an eastern country, and it was a shop owner, and he gave the rebels some candy, and there was also some still water where they bathed, and they worshipped Allah, and they said that you see how Allah provides for us. And there couldn't have been a more clear example of faith and walking with faith, according to those men, or according to that example. And what I was saying to someone recently is that I think that when opportunities and sustenance appears as you need it, it's not because of your outstandingness or your specialness, because what is outstanding because it's not a respecter of persons, because it is yet all persons. And so when you are being sustained and supported as you need it, where you need it, in uncanny ways, yet also you may be extended, it's because you are a part of what is great, and what is great is providing for what is great, and also you as being a part of what is great in a great way. And there is your support and your maintenance and your blessing, and your blessings are not outside of what is great blessing itself, in fact, because you are a part of what is great. And so I just was enunciating that with someone, but I was also saying that I was trying to say, so like in that film Good Will Hunt, so an example of that is that in that film Good Will Hunting, he has erudited himself. He's portrayed as a janitor at an Ivy League school in the Boston area, which is a great a seat of learning historically, and he's educating himself with the means of a public library, free of charge. I think maybe, I don't know about the word free. I don't know if anything's free, but at least as it's been sponsored by state subsidies, the public library is a venue for him to erudite himself and he's at challenging the learning of people who are landed in high seats of learning in that film. At the beginning of the film, there's a famous scene with "How you like them apples," and some people might know what I'm referring to. But that's an example of how we can be met with where we need. Where we've always had the need of learning in life. So, and there's always been opportunities to learn, not the least of which other people. And what I was saying is that I think that some of your higher education are actually networking venues and credentialing venues, which actually explains the tooth and nail competition, which is a distraction to learning. But I was saying, as much as you can imagine paying to attend an Ivy League school, I think that your greatest insights in life are a function of collaboration, like a communication as collaboration, a discourse, a dialogue, more so than a lecture. So can you actually imagine, as much as you pay for higher education, a professor getting in we now have legal marijuana in many places. Can you imagine a professor attending a car that doesn't work, or broke down vehicle with you, and enjoying marijuana together, which is less than the cost of the less of a price of higher education, and having a discussion, an open-minded dialogue together, where the two of you are better off for that dialogue, because it's not a dialogue unless you are both challenging each other and better off for the dialogue. Can you imagine that? But that's because a lot of our higher education is more so a tooth and nail pecking order ranking competition to attain some of the seats of credentialing and networking, first and foremost, above and beyond considerations of education or of learning. But in that film, where I was going is that Matt Damon, as he's portrayed as Savant, had misgivings about supporting three-letter agencies recruiting him in the interest of national interest, but to understand how his assistance could be felt by maybe poor, marginalized people in other countries thrust in the position of a rebel or whatnot, to actually experience the brutality of what that would mean for him to decipher and crack a code of some kind. And I was saying that the entertainer Kanye West has made public statements about slavery being a choice, and I was saying that I don't want to associate myself with that comment of his, but I do want to say that if you appreciate colonialism, both in the continent of Africa and also the United States, it's probably the same other places. Can you imagine the footing that the colonists would have landed on these different places that far extended from where they came from, with what means can be conveyed over a boat, to yet have a footing and an advantage into the land that would amount to kidnapping the strongest members of that land, and also staying in that land, permeating that land, displacing that land, marginalizing that land, extracting and enjoying the resources amounting to prosperity and progeny in the face of the natural inhabitants of that land, to the latter's detriment and sometimes genocide. Could that have been possible without the learning that would have been available to the colonists by the people that they met there? Could they really have got a foothold in that land and survived something as sublime but also as brutal as the wilderness of Africa or the United States, without the learning and understanding of the people there, who maybe approached them and benefited them in a spirit of brotherhood and reciprocity, without a true appreciation for what that would mean to them, and how that would be used against them. So I say that sometimes when you're making content online, like I've made content on YouTube in some forms of men's style, I more so get ran out the flagpole and affronted for my best insights. But I think that one is that people want to say, so what is your authority? And I'm more so not speaking with authority, but in the spirit of collaboration, and also forming ideas as I'm discoursing and dialoguing. And that's actually the creation of insight and wisdom. Insight and wisdom is not so much profound when it's already decided for and thought out for you, but when it becomes a collaboration. Sometimes it might be a collaboration with yourself in dialoguing publicly, but then also to be engaged with and to receive insight and engagement is the creation of insight. But I was just saying that sometimes I don't know if it actually serves us, because you take a lot of the interests that would have been present at these different iterations of colonialism, and those very interests and those dynamics and those skewing of opportunity and resources are still with us the same as they were then. But you've always had people of natural wisdom of all places, including Europe, the wise people of Europe, where the people with the real wisdom are confiscated of their wisdom and then beat down with the advantage of their own wisdom. And sometimes I feel that way uploading content online. But I still want to enter a body of work for the greater benefit of other people who could come across it, whether I am compensated or respected for it.